Go.
All right, we're live. We're live. Sorry, y'all. We're coming in hot.
I mean, we're 4 women. Do we do it any other way?
Thank you for your patience since we're a few minutes late. But we'll still end on time because that's our commitment.
That's right. That's right. We value you and your time and being here with us. So let's get going because we have so much to hear from the Carries. We have named them the Carries, which we're so excited about. But thank you for joining us, listeners. And if you're watching or listening to the recording, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Christine Passo, and Colleen Saringer is my co-host, my amazing, fabulous co-host. And We Built a Bridge was founded with the core interest of creating a funnel of conversation many hesitate to engage in. I'm a life coach for women, and my co-host Colleen is a fractional culture and well-being officer. United, we offer different perspectives on wellness, culture, and life fulfillment to guide you to live your best life.
All right.
Awesome.
So where are we headed? Where are we headed? All right. Well, here's the purpose. Let me start by saying this. Until May 1st of last year, I personally never posted on LinkedIn because I thought I was going to enter a social media nightmare. To my surprise, I've been greeted with connection and community. I know Christine has felt the same. I think we can say that Carrie Connor, who is the National Voluntary Benefits Practice Leader of Epic Brokers and the founder of Yuletide Summit, can say the same. And I think that Carrie Lynn Shaw, who is a fractional Chief People Officer, can say the same. Yeah. And so ultimately, that's what we're here to talk about today, the magic behind LinkedIn. But before we jump into that conversation, we do have to start with our icebreaker and the big question that everyone is dying to know this week, which is this. What was your favorite ice cream place when you were younger? And so just to help the flow, we'll have Christine, you go first, Carrie Connor, you go second, Carrie Lynn, and then I'll finish us off. Favorite ice cream place when you were younger?
This is like a no-brainer for me, and I don't remember this until I take my last breath. We used to go to the Jersey Shore when I was young. We had a house there, and we would spend all summer there. And there's a place, so we went to Avalon, New Jersey, and there's a place called Avalon Freeze, and I think they still exist, but I'm not sure. And I can still hear it. I'd go up and order. I'd be with my sister. I'd say, medium mix with Jimmy's. So depending on where you grew up, you either call them sprinkles or Jimmy's. Nope, it was all about Jimmy. So it would be a combination of soft serve vanilla chocolate. They'd sprinkle them with Jimmy's, and I was good to go. It's awesome. If you're ever in Stone Harbor or Avalon, New Jersey, see if you can go to Avalon Freeze.
And I'd be asking for sprinkles.
Yeah. All right, well, we can talk about that later, Colleen.
All right, sorry. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie Connor.
I love this question because I love ice cream so much. I have a lot of it in my freezer right now. And I grew up very close to a Baskin Robbins where we could walk from home sort of up the street. So that was sort of our thing. And mint chip was my flavor with Jimmy's. And I didn't realize it was a regional thing with Sprinkles Jimmy's. I just thought like hoagie sub, it was, I don't know, but Jimmy's were a thing. So.
Uh-oh. Oh, Susie said we have 2 different links for this and the other one didn't work. Sorry to interrupt the ice cream.
That's okay. We'll keep going. Carrie Lynn Shaw, you're up.
All right. So my first job at 13 was Dairy Queen. So I worked there when the blizzard came in and we had to turn it upside down. And if it fell out, then you got it for free. So it was a very scary moment if it was going to stay in or not. So yeah, Dairy Queen, classic. That was my jam.
Okay, and also I just want to say I didn't know about that whole training with the Dairy Queen ice cream, the blizzard. My husband told me that because he worked at Dairy Queen for a short time.
No way.
All right, so I'm going to finish off. My answer is Friendly's. So I don't know. I think, yeah, okay. So Friendly's, rest in peace. I think there's only one left. It's in Boston Logan Airport, up where the Delta terminal is. I fly there a lot for that reason. I'm kidding. But my go-to was the Reese PC Sundae, hold the hot fudge, extra peanut butter drizzle. So that's it.
Wow. I mean, you went all the way, didn't you?
All right. So it's time for our first question. So we'll reverse. So after I ask it, we'll have Carrie Lynn. You can go ahead and kick us off with your response, and then we'll ask Carrie Connor to follow. And for those of us that did make it to the recording today, definitely jump in and share any reactions that you may have in the chat. So the first question is, why are you on LinkedIn, and or what brought you to LinkedIn?
So you're starting with me. So I have been in HR for over a decade, and I would say as an HR professional is where we found candidates, right? But it was also a place where I could showcase my own professional background, and a lot of jobs came from it. So recruiters would reach out, and even if I didn't take the job, I always took the call. I did a post about that earlier this week. And the importance of building your network that way. But I don't think I recognize the power of LinkedIn as much as I do today. And I would say more around, as a candidate, my voice, and knowing how important it is that this is a platform for you to share who you are and for people to connect. And that connection goes much deeper than just a career connection. It's also what you value, what the company values, and it's a getting to know each other on a different level. I underestimated that. And I actually have a client who I'm working with who is looking for her new role. And she is a very senior executive and never recognized that LinkedIn was a platform where she could use her voice. She always thought that she had to only share stuff from her company's voice. And that I think if we are all, I think, creators, right? So we are influencers in a different space on LinkedIn. For candidates, I think there's this really great opportunity that I think 95% of the 1 billion people on LinkedIn are candidates, that they're not necessarily showcasing and using their voice. I think it's a real opportunity.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to hold my reactions. Go ahead, Carrie. You jump in.
Carrie Lynn said a few really beautiful things there, which is the connection and the community that you find. And for me, I was a person that was on LinkedIn for probably a decade or more, just sort of out there. I had mostly industry connections. And then fast forward to 2023, I was in, sort of the highest point in my career in terms of up the ladder. I was like at the top, and, it gets lonely at the top. There's less connection there. There's sort of sometimes a barrier between you and others for a deeper, more meaningful place to kind of vibe, if you will. And I was feeling pretty low as I was kind of hitting mid 23. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave this role. I need to find the connection in some way. And often I was on Zoom the entire day and just really like so thirsty and hungry for that deeper meaning and purpose. And so in my day-to-day moments. And so I said, you know what, I think LinkedIn could be that place. And I just threw down all my chips into this platform. And it's become really a mental health, well-being place for me, which I really want to underscore for anyone who's listening. If you're struggling in any way, the connections that I found here over the last 100, I think today's post was 108, I believe. In that 108 days has completely transformed my life. It has not been a transactional exercise where I'm trying to, maybe get anything from it. It's really like, throwing out these boomerangs of like happiness that I find in my day, and people kind of throw it back, and it's magnified in a way that I could not have imagined in other opportunities, in deeper connection, in friendships that I know I'll have for life. It's been bananas in the best possible way. And for anyone who's sort of silently out there looking, it's such a beautiful place because people have to show up as their best self, because it is primarily still viewed as a place to, as Carrie Lynn said, like put yourself out there, find that new role. And because of that, you have to show up a little bit more like as your best self, not on the day where you're kind of grumpy, but you got to be like, all right, what do I want to vibe about today? And by virtue of that, your community finds you. You don't have to even search for it. And the other beautiful thing, and I want to just underscore this too, Carrie Lynn talked about voice. You might not know what your voice is. If you're younger, you might still be trying to find it. If you're older, you might have forgotten sort of what you're about a little bit or want to retool. And by writing every day, you find it, and then you amplify it, and then your community finds you. So it's such a transformative thing. So that's how I would view it.
So Christine, do you mind if I jump in real quick before we go to our second question? Because I want to call out a couple things that I'm seeing in the chat that where my mind was going as I was like hearing the words for both of you. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to call attention to is some are afraid to use LinkedIn that are in their current roles, right? And I think I'll say that was myself. I mean, was pretty confident in my career at that point in time, but I didn't really feel like I could use my voice at that point. And so for me, when I left my role last year, I really leaned on LinkedIn to find that combination of Colleen, the old professional, Colleen at home, and kind of Colleen, the coming of the new Colleen, if you will. And so anyways, I didn't want to dismiss that comment, because I think that that is often, right? I think a lot of people have that same challenge. And then Carrie, the other thing that you said about the mental health, like what it's really brought you, is that really hit me too, because I love to write, and being able to find my voice and use it in a way that I believe can be helpful for others. That's what I'm receiving from it too. So anyways, I just wanted to call attention to those couple of things, and just some of the things I was seeing in the chat. Somebody, Nora says, like the most supportive social media platform. And so anyways, thank you both for sharing that.
It's so true.
I would say just one thing, as I'm reading the one about being afraid to share your personal goals and dreams and experience. Sometimes what was helpful for me, even before I started to get really active on LinkedIn, was sharing posts that inspired me. Mm-hmm. And whether you are really focused on DEI and you're incredibly passionate about that, you're passionate like I am about closing the gender pay gap, you're passionate about anything that is something that really has meaning for you, and start there, because that will sort of open new doors, and then start following people that inspire you. And when they post something really interesting, share those posts, and that will sort of start to shape now then who your community becomes and the kind of people that are looking at your profile. Because don't underestimate the fact that the more active you are on LinkedIn, if you are a candidate, the more recruiters will find you. So if you're in stealth mode and you don't have a photo and you don't have an about statement that talks about who you are, if a recruiter finds you, they might look past you. So I know it's hard to find that confidence, but I would highly, highly recommend you spend some time researching what are the top things for candidates on LinkedIn that you should do, because it's really a beautiful space if you're looking at it for a professional or new role.
Yeah. So before we get into the second question, I just want to know if any of the three of you or any of our listeners, so Carrie Connor talked about bananas. Was anybody singing Gwen Stefani's song at the same time? Because I immediately went there. I was like, is it inappropriate to start singing? I don't know. So Carrie Connor, thanks for bringing that fun into today's chat. But moving on to the next question. So Colleen and I have talked about the magic of LinkedIn from a community support standpoint, right? And that's what we have already started talking about here today. But when we take conversations off the platform, right, to either virtual or in person, that changes everything. And we have you on today because you've shared the same. We felt that with you when we had calls with you. So share more with us about the connections that you initially made on LinkedIn, and then what happened when you took it off the platform. We'll start with Carrie Connor.
Such a good question. And I love Gwen Stefani, so it's a great pivot there to some good music. But I think she's such a rock star in every sense of that word. So, you know, what's so beautiful about the platform, and some of my friends like Liam Darmody would say it's a serendipity manifestation platform. And I believe that. So what's interesting about how I took it off the platform is that I had this dream to create this Yuletide Summit to bring people together at work and at schools to create more happiness. And by virtue of posting on LinkedIn, I found the very people to help me to take that out to the world. And they sort of created these roles for themselves. I would see them in the room I was creating by virtue of how they were showing up on LinkedIn and how I got to know them and really vibe with them in a deeper way. So I'd say to myself, oh, and Liam's one of those people. I see Liam in this room I'm creating, and here's where I'm going to ask him to maybe be a part. Oh, I see Melissa Cohen in this other way. So it's just interesting how, for me personally, that's been really, again, not a transactional experience where I go in and I just try to peek in and out and like drop a post, or it's really intentional for me. I probably spend a couple of hours a day on that platform in some way, in cumulative time, and that might shock some people. And I want to go back. It's important to say this and again, really underscore it. When I first started posting, I was scared out of my mind. What is my company going to think? What is my boss going to think? What is the world at large going to think? And you have to turn the mirror around and say, why do I care about that? If I'm being authentic and kind. So I put it through two lenses. How's my boss going to react to this? And how are my kids going to feel about this? Because it's a legacy you're leaving. At some point when we leave this earth, my kids will go to that platform to figure out a little bit of who I was that they didn't see in my lifetime. And am I showing up, right? And it's become this sort of therapy for me. And my boss called me one day and said, listen, I read every single thing you do. He goes, I love it. Just keep being you. Like, and that there's no, and when you finally free yourself of, I don't care at all what people think. I just danced in my chair on LinkedIn this morning. If you had asked me 109 days ago if I would ever have had the courage and the gumption to do that, I would have said, you've lost your mind. I would get fired for doing that. And now I realize that that's why I'm celebrated, because that's what people look to me to be, is just who I am. And if you work for an employer that makes you feel like you can't do that, I'd ask that deeper question. Are you really in the right place and right culture for you? And the answer might be no. And that's okay. Like, you have to go where your people are, right? And that's what LinkedIn illuminates. And what Carrie Lynn's work in the world is to do, is to find that path for you, right? Illuminate where you can feel like really good. So hopefully that's helpful.
Oh God, I love that so much. And KL, I can't wait to hear what you have to add.
Oh,
I love you. I want to be friends after this. I think
we have to be friends.
What you're doing, so keep going. Go.
I saw you dancing today, and it made me smile. So I will always take two different perspectives, because I'm an entrepreneur and I have created a company to help people, certainly on LinkedIn, find their way. So there's the perspective of the intentionality around the connections that I've made have happened very naturally, organically. I've found my people, they found me, and I'm intentional about going into their inbox and saying, hey, I really like your stuff. So happy to have you on my network, and doing something a little bit more personal. I don't know that I would have had the confidence to do that some years ago, because it was like, ooh, they might see I'm looking at the profile. Ooh, who looked at my profile? Oh, could I even possibly reach out? This is a company that I'm interested in. So breaking down that and just knowing, for anyone who's listening who is a candidate, get in someone's DMs. Don't slap them with a pitch on what you're selling. Of course, if you're a candidate, I really was inspired by your post and follow you. And thank you so much for everything you do. That will get attention. People love a compliment. And, to be intentional about the companies you're going after. I think there's a different way to approach this platform, where I think a lot of people are just sort of hiding and peeking and a little in stealth mode. People love when you reach out. And if they don't, they're not your people. So my experience with LinkedIn and this friendship and these friendships, I met a woman who just blew my mind. Her name is Ashley Perret. If you're not following her, she's amazing. She does similar work to what I do. Technically, in a normal world, we would be competitors. But no, we're not. We are joining forces and starting a podcast. And that was after one conversation. She said she wanted to start a podcast. I said, so do I. And we said, let's do it together. I mean, like, where in the world would that have happened? The kinds of connections and the support that I've received from my network has been I started this in October, being more intentional on LinkedIn. You never would have thought in a million years that I would have made these kinds of connections. And the support for each other is bananas. My other bestie, Josiah, I took his page over when he went on vacation, because as creators, we need to be still active and making sure that LinkedIn sees us. And I mean, what an experience. Like, first of all, I never met the guy. The fact that he trusted me, that was a big thing. But it's a phenomenal community, and there's nothing else out there like it.
Christine, did you have any immediate reaction? I have a couple. Go ahead. If you have
Yeah. So, it's almost like, of course, during COVID, we all were, we were all home and everybody had to do Zoom, and we created relationships from a virtual perspective. But on LinkedIn, that person, they're just a person. We don't associate them with anything else other than, oh, it's a link, they're a LinkedIn connection. But the moment that you have a phone call or you have a Zoom call with them and you realize, like Carrie Connor and I realized we had a lot of similarities from where she lives and where a lot of my family live. And I mean, immediately there was a connection. And, you know, there's something that just flips a switch when you turn that LinkedIn connection into, and I haven't quite put my finger on what I call those people now, right? Because it feels impersonal to say LinkedIn connection. They've become more than that. Carrie Connor has become more than that. KL has become more than that. And Colleen, my gosh, we're about ready to conquer the world together. So it's like, it's just absolutely amazing and blows my mind and almost hard to put into words. But Colleen, I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I want to reiterate. I love Gail, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like what I heard was fear. Like it helps remove the fear, right? Of rejection by sending a DM, taking that step to do it. First of all, it's so scary to post. I should even go back even farther. It's scary to even post, right? And then it's scary to put that direct message out there. And to your point, if you hear a no, they're not your people. It's okay. But it helps with that rejection that life is going to hand us, period. And so I think that that's just been such an interesting learning and growth opportunity. I know that I have received, and it sounds like we're all kind of in a similar boat there. And then, of course, my brain. Oh, yes. Sometimes these thoughts just come in and then they go away. So, and then again, with that, it's this immediate connection. So to Christine's point, I mean, we were commenting on each other's posts for months before we finally were like, we should get on the phone. And it was an immediate, we need to collaborate and do something together. But it was that we had that opportunity to learn each other throughout the several months of giving and receiving, right? And then that's this, I mean, when I take a step back, and I feel like I say this to my husband every single Friday, I cannot believe the people that I met this week. I cannot believe where they were in the world that I spoke to them. And the fact that I know that when I go to specific states and specific countries, I actually have a community to reach out to when I'm in those respective states and countries and have a coffee or have breakfast or whatever. And it is mind-blowing to me. Because again, I am not a social media girl. I thought I would go literally to my grave without ever having to touch social media. And here I am. I'm on it every day. And it's
different. It's not your typical social. It's such a different platform. Somebody just posted something really interesting that men mostly connect for me for selling and lead gen rather than true connection. Yeah. I do find that also very similar, but I do think there are a lot of men that are looking for that connection. Maybe this kind of approach and conversation helps them to also be a little bit more relaxed in the beginning and build a relationship first before you try to sell me something. Because it's not working. So if if you take a look at your results of lead gen, try something new, say hey first. Yeah. Just another way, another opportunity.
Yeah, no, thank you for calling that out. I cannot multitask and read at the same and talk at the same time. All right. Any other parting thoughts? We have a few minutes before I wind us down.
I did want to add just to what Colleen said, which I think it's an important thing it's a reframe that's really critical, which is anytime I'm reaching out or posting or commenting, it's always from the lens of what can I give? And with zero, less than zero expectation of anything. So I throw the boomerang out. Here's what made me happy today. Hopefully someone catches that, right? And if not, great. And I see what you're doing, Christine, Colleen. I comment on your stuff often. And if it doesn't hit me, I don't comment. Sometimes I might not see it too. And then if something happens from that, I mean, that's absolutely amazing. But I'm just having fun by virtue of doing what I just said. And that's enough. And when you really can grab onto that as your sort of compass of good for yourself and feel proud and happy and excited just to vibe in that way, it's, again, absolutely bananas what has happened by virtue of just letting go of all of that. Like it's never to me about a sale or it's the furthest thing from my mind. I don't know if I've ever posted once about selling anything to anybody. It's really about this. And that's what makes me feel good inside. And I think that's why so many good things have happened. So if you can think about it like a boomerang, that you throw it out and just know it'll come back. You don't know how or when, but it comes back bigger than you could have ever dreamed. You couldn't dream big enough. And that's why it's the kindest platform on the planet. And I think LinkedIn needs a little rebrand refresh, which Liam and Melissa and Julie and I talk about often. We need to help them do that. So.
Well, there's every second, 3 people are joining this platform, and they're growing from 1 billion, almost 1 billion to 3 billion. That's their goal. So the platform is growing, and there are new people coming on every day that don't know how to use it either, right? So finding them and kind of carrying them along with us is also something that I think is very helpful for people who are new here.
I love that visual of carrying and bridging, and like this idea that we're so close. We're one post away. It's a great equalizer. Some of the people I've met and talked with in my prior Carrie brain 4 months ago, I would have said, oh, I can't talk to that person. I mean, they're that person. And now I'm like, they're just a person. They're just like me. They put their pants on the same way. And it's just amazing how that reframe like makes you feel just like I have value. You don't have to wait to have value till you have this many followers, this many likes, this many. It's not about that at all. And people that understand that it's not full of vinegar and vitriol of every other platform. It's really, truly kind and vulnerable and beautiful. It's tremendously transformative. So.
Wow. That's such a great wrap up. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So one of our commitments is to always honor time. So first and foremost, thank you to both of our Carries for joining us.
Carries.
We're so honored that you agreed to come and join us today. So thank you so much for the conversation.
Pleasure.
And then just to go ahead and close us out. So as a reminder to everyone, we go live every other Thursday from 12 to 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're as predictable as your fur babies are at mealtime. If you have a dog, you know what we mean. All right. So that means that our next episode is going to be on February 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And what we have teed up for that is craving real human interaction and connection versus automated help. We're not communicating and we're not being heard. And so that's just how we're going to tease it out. And then we'll have more to share on what we mean by all of that when we see you all next time. So thank you so much again for joining us. We hope everyone enjoyed the conversation today.
We had a blast. Thank you all so much. And all of our listeners, have a great day.
Bye.